I'm sure a lot of you can sympathize, but I have a gaming backlog that is way, way too long. To combat sunk cost fallacy and in a desperate attempt to make my backlog something I might actually be able to navigate my lifetime, I'm trying the first level or hour or whatever from my backlog, going one by one randomly. Join me in my journey as I attempt this Backlog Blitz. Up first, we have the fitting Ys origin. Now, I played Ys 1 and 2 back in 2020 and fell in love with the series. Been collecting the games as they go on sale, with the constant intent to keep going when I get the free time, but you know how it goes. I gotta say, that intro cinematic does a lot to get you hyped, especially as someone who already played through Ys 1 and 2. I'm excited to learn more about the backstory of the world and see what sort of tweaks they make to the classic framework and a more modern take on Darm Tower. I can already tell that I'm gonna have a hard time putting this one down. Funnily enough, immediately after that hype cinematic, the next impression is a whole lot of exposition without much context. I find myself kind of wanting the game to get on with it. Not sure if starting with gameplay before dumping some of this on you wouldn't have flowed better. And once I get into the gameplay, I have to say I find the movement speed too slow for what sort of game it is. Or at least what sort of game I think it's trying to be. Your dash really should be your walking speed, and a further, faster speed should have been your dash. It kind of weirdly reminds me of the same issue Circle of the Moon had. Okay, at the risk of 3 negatives in a row, I think I'll also admit the music is a lot more subdued than Ys 1 and 2. I kind of miss the style of butt rock juxtaposed against sword and sorcery settings. Like, this music might be more appropriate, but at this point for me, part of the Ys identity just is that juxtaposition. I will say that while I'm glad their art styles have progressed, little 3D modeled sprite kind of Donkey Kong characters are very charming and very of their time, in a way that I do find endearing. Okay, the combo system encouraging you to keep up a solid pace when attacking enemies is extremely addicting. This combat system is clearly going to be the bread and butter of this game, and it is really engaging. I love the pool of options it gives you to tackle these enemies, and it does a great job of taking the sort of platonic ideal of bump combat and transforming it into something way more engaging to play. And it's not just arcade fun through the halls of this tower. That first boss was everything I could have hoped for from a boss of this type of game. Tough, cleaned my clock the first several times I fought him, but I kept getting better, and eventually I was able to win. It was a really fun boss fight, and he wasn't a pushover in the slightest, but you can still feel yourself making progress every time you challenge him. All in all, Ys Origin had a bit of a slower start than I would have expected, but once that momentum got going, the combat drew me in and keeps me wanting to go back for more. It gets an 8 out of 10 rating in excitement and goes on the high priority backlog. We're looking at Final Fantasy IV, The After Years. I hate this game. I hate this game so much. The original After Years is an actual desecration of one of the seminal works gaming storytelling has ever made. The original Final Fantasy IV is sort of the game that proved to Western audiences that games could be more than toys. They could have stories with themes, they could be works of art, they could carry weight and value beyond brief entertainment. Final Fantasy IV might be the most Christian game on the SNES, and this changeling masquerading as a sequel is one of the most spiteful attempts to destroy a legacy I have ever seen. And this comes from the same company that made 10-2. I had hoped that perhaps the 3D remake could do something to remedy the genuinely abhorrent malcreation that is Final Fantasy IV The After Years, but it doesn't. The characters are still lifeless husks, lacking the spark and thematic resonance that made them so beloved. The Christian themes are scattered to the wind and continuously recontextualized from a pathetic atheistic perspective, and the combat is dull and uninteresting. What few interesting ideas this game does possess, like the bands stolen from Chrono Trigger or the moon phases, are not given an opportunity to be used in interesting ways, as this system has to account for the ludicrously large cast that is never given time for you to care about. Play this game if you hate God and yourself, and how it got a 3D remake proves to me there's someone invested in besmirching the creations of the past for fear that they will show up the slop being made by the company today. 1 out of 10. May I never lay eyes on this wretched disaster of a game ever again. Vagrant Story. Alright, let's just boot this one up and whoa! Dragons, action, sex! That is quite the intro. Once you get past it, it starts auto-playing a cutscene and I am immediately gripped. It's very cinematic. The art style still holds up and the dialogue's intriguing. The only thing it's missing is voice acting. Seeing these well-acted scenes with lip flaps but no voices does feel a bit odd. I'm reminded of Metal Gear in the best way possible. Partially in that intro is 90% cutscene, but it's so engaging, I don't care. I really want to play more of this game. The combat is a bit awkward. It reminds me a lot of VATS from Fallout, but without the added complexity yet. But this is early on. I could see it developing into something more interesting with a bit more time. Overall, it's hard to say more other than this is my favorite game of this set so far, and it's definitely going on the high priority backlog. The only reason it isn't higher is because this is the same team that made Tactics, if I remember correctly. And that game is filled with brain-dead religious, political, and philosophical takes, so seeing politics and religion feature heavily at the start, I'm concerned more of that is going to creep in as we go on. Still, very excited to play more. Sam and Max, Culture Shock. My experience with point-and-click adventure games is an odd one. I've played a lot of games with point-and-click elements that I really enjoyed, but I don't have a lot of experience with true point-and-click games, and I'm really interested to see how this turns out. Oh, okay, yeah, this just isn't for me. The humor just isn't clicking. I get what it's going for, but randomly clicking around without a real lead and 90% of the results being jokes that just don't land for me means this game really is not going to work for me. Even in this first room, it just feels like most of the clickable items don't really amount to anything other than kind of bad humor. Maybe the puzzles or the jokes get better later on, but it is not putting its best foot forward. This might be the type of game I would have appreciated as an 8-year-old with infinite time and not much else to do, but I just think there's games doing what it's trying to do a lot better and with a lot more respect for my time. Sadly, this one's getting pulled off the backlog list. I don't think I want to play it again. But it does make me want to watch the B-Mask video again. Y'all should really check that out. It's quality work, man. Chibi-Robo. Okay, have you ever had one of those games you've wanted to play since childhood but just never got around to playing? It's a crime Chibi-Robo didn't take off and make bigger waves than it did. I can immediately tell I've struck gold. It's all the fun of Toy Story mixed with a compelling and relatable family drama, and the coziness of Animal Crossing. It's also right in that sweet spot of 3D, early enough to be simple and charming and nostalgic, but not so early that 90% of the graphics are just my imagination, like Final Fantasy VII is. I knew a lot about the series, but somehow never heard the music, and I'm not sure what I was expecting, but this definitely wasn't it. I'm having a hard time putting this one down too. It seems to have the depth of an adventure game, but the cycle of an arcade game. Doing as much as you can before you run out of power really keeps the moment-to-moment gameplay engaging in a big way. I also seriously enjoy the act of cleaning up stains and picking up wrappers, sort of recontextualizing aspects of collectathon gameplay very naturally into the world of Chibi-Robo. I do worry that as we go on, the gameplay depth might not hold up to the length of this game, but it's hard to deny how much I've enjoyed my time with this one. High priority backlog for sure. And there you have it. With 3 of the 5 going on high priority backlog and only 2 taken off this list, I worry I'm not doing such a great job at actually thinning out the backlog. Still, I know I have some amazing games to get back to, if I can ever manage to get back around to them. Have you played any of these games? Do my initial impressions do them justice? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you for the next Backlog Blitz. God bless!